moment that Amelia Marty reached for and tasted yet another scone. This is in the St. Regis Hotel where Amelia Marty maintains a suite of rooms. Into the room hurtled a tall, muscle-bound man outfitted in a salmon skin-tight t-shirt with a rust-colored Hugo Boss suit. He wore unlaced high-top athletic shoes and sported a flowing pocket handkerchief. "Hello, hello, hello," he called out. "Amelia, darling, put that down." No. What did we say about our fat intake? Are we really going to eat that silly scone? I don't think so. No, ma'am. Miss Marty laughed stylishly and polished off the rest of her scone. "Krista, darling, this is Mr. Larry. Mr. Larry is my dietary advisor. Mr. Larry, this is Miss Krista Vitek of the New York Times." With her finger, she gestured delicately but unmistakably for Krista to take her seat. "Now, I forgot to mention, Krista dear, that Mr. Larry is also my hypnotist. Mr. Larry, I know we were supposed to review my calcium supplement dosage, but I would much rather utilize your talents as a channeler to stage a seance right here for Miss Vitek." Larry sits down. "We have certainly had our fun with our little seances, haven't we, Amelia? But dearest, I didn't bring the table or the candles or the cassette of the special channeling sounds. Really, can't we do this next time?" Amelia spoke to Krista. "Mr. Larry often appears to forget who it is that put those $1,000 suits on his back. Perhaps Mr. Larry would prefer to return to the YMCA in Astoria." Mr. Larry now says to Krista, "Isn't she fantastic? What a sense of humor. I just love it when she's decisive. I love her to death. Mwah!" He mimed a kiss and blew it in Amelia's direction. Now, Amelia's emphatic. "I neglected to mention who we would conjure at the seance. My good friend, Maria Felicia Garcia Malagrad. With Mr. Larry's special talents, you will hear her speak in just a few moments." "Yes, indeed," agreed Larry. "Maria Felicia Garcia who? I love it. Wasn't she the Gloria Estefan backup singer who died in that bus crash? To think that could have been Gloria herself, I could just cringe. Mr. Larry, a word with you, sir." And they send Krista out of the room to get her elixir dose. And when she comes back in, they explain the premise I've already mentioned about Park Theater. Mr. Larry grabs their hands and he says, "Isn't this delicious? We could be all around the campfire singing Kumbaya." And at that point, Amelia kicks him. He then tries his best to channel and get them in the mood, and he wants to sing a song. So he sings, "There once was a man named Michael Finnegan. He had whiskers on his chinnigan. The wind came along," and she kicks him again, stops him. "Mr. Larry, you will lull me with your hypnotic powers while I recite some verse. From Longfellow, I used to know him years ago. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave it's not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. Trust no future, however pleasant, let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and God o'erhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time." Krista could tell by Amelia's heavier breathing that she was either now in a trance or else wanted Krista to believe she was. It was becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish between these two possibilities. Mr. Larry called out, "Who's there? Who is with us? Enter our seance and identify yourself." A voice that Krista had never heard before answered. She saw Amelia's lips move, but the voice was higher, lighter, and spoke with a very different and more pronounced accent than did Amelia.
My name is Maria Felicia Garcia Malibran.
Mr. Larry asked the voice, "Where are you speaking from, Maria?"
I am behind the curtains of the Park Theater. Holding my fingers in a deliberate fashion, I obtain a glimpse of the gold columns of the auditorium. I stare at the figures of tragedy and comedy, for I believe that my young life to date contains elements of both of these realms.
Now, as she then talks, and it's a rather long seance, she mysteriously borderline remembers that to mention that the play that she's going to be seancing is Rossini's Othello, and that she now sees in her divinity that Verdi would do an Othello play years later, but she can only do Rossini because she wasn't alive then. And she makes these little asides that kind of strain our credulity. And at a certain point, it reaches a climax.
The audience is overwhelmed by my singing of the willow song. Now Papa enters as the deranged Moor. I notice that Papa is not carrying the stage-prop dagger with which we had rehearsed. He is carrying a real dagger. I sing out my line in Italian. Ah, Father, ah, whatever have I done? To have loved you is my only crime. I am overwhelmed with fear. Is he angry at me for not infusing my performance with enough passion? Does he want to murder me? Or is he so overcome with dramatic artifice that he believes himself to be Othello and believes me to be Desdemona, his supposedly unfaithful spouse? Will I perish on the stage of the Park Theater?
And then, of course, Mr. Larry says, "This is so exciting. Tell us, Maria, what happens next?" And of course, they chase each other around, and to find out what happens, you'll have to read it. But at a certain point, Krista, increasingly frustrated, says, "Ask Maria whether she is Alina Macropolis." Before Larry could relay the question, Amelia's lips conveyed the masked voice's answer. "Before I was Maria Malibran, I was Alina Macropolis. In 1826, and it goes on, claiming to be the real Alina Macropolis. The next